Hello and welcome back. It's coming up on Friday. I'm actually videoing this Thursday night. I'm traveling, as can be seen by this beautiful background that I've spent a lot of money to arrange for you to look at. And it's a really a dumpy hotel room, unfortunately, but is what it is. I still got to do the Franco Fridays, right? Um, Franco film from 1982. This is a Severin release of Mansion of the Living Dead. Now, this is a mixed bag. It was released and promoted as the fifth of the Blind Dead series of films. Uh, but as Jess Franco points out, while he admired the first Blind Dead film, uh, he's not a big fan of Living Dead zombie type films, nor is he a fan of George Romero films. He thinks it's silly and ludicrous. Um, so that's his opinion, I guess. Uh, the film is a mixed bag of surrealistic settings and dreamlike atmosphere, as you get with a lot of Franco films, combined with gratuitous nudity, lesbian scenes, rape, and sadism. The monks in this film are kind of an offshoot of the Templar Knights and the blind, as is portrayed in the Blind Dead films. But that's kind of where the similarities end. I think for the Blind Dead, Franco adopts a whole different kind of approach with his Blind Dead. These are more like living human beings uh, that are really holdovers from the Spanish Inquisition times. The Blind Dead are really used in this Franco film, in my opinion, as a kind of a social commentary to take a poke at General Franco and fascism. You know, this film was made in '82, and Franco was pretty much banished from Spain by the Franco totalitarian government. So when he got to come back in the '80s and actually shoot films in Spain, uh, he was obviously quick to take a couple pokes and stabs at the previous leadership, which I think that's really the only purpose these monks in this film. Uh, I think that's really their real purpose. He's not looking to portray zombies as in the George Romero films, but use them as a form of social commentary. The makeup is fairly effective on the monks. They're really not the main vehicle of the film. The main vehicle of the film is to portray. I'm laughing before I get to the point. Four women that work at a topless bar, and they're on vacation, and the whole intent of that is to show them having sex together and walking around topless and nude. I mean, Lena Remey, who is always a fixture in the Franco films, pretty much is in the film entirely nude. I don't think she ever put on a pair of clothes, I mean, a dress or any clothes. I mean, she just nude, totally nude. Walking down a long hallway at the hotel, totally nude except for earrings and um, high heels. I mean, you've got things like you've got a woman that's got a dog collar and she's chained to the bed. As one of the monks is also the hotel innkeeper, and he's got this fascination with this woman, and he keeps her chained up and treats her like an animal. Just rapes her whenever he feels like it, and mistreats her. Uh, you've got a great scene. There's actually moments of humor in this. You've got scenes where they're laying on the beach full of rocks. I mean, it doesn't look very appealing. And out of nowhere comes this butcher knife, and the butcher knife lands in the sand in between Lena Remey and one of the other girls. Hilarious. And that probably the funniest scene is where uh, Lena Remey is performing 69 and gets a hair in her mouth, and she says, "Oh, I got a hair in my mouth." And the girl says, "Well, okay, we'll make a wish and blow." I mean, what, you know, You gotta. I mean, I love it. You know, it's just hilarious stuff. The cinematography and some of the shots that Franco uses in this really are very effective. There's scenes of the hotel these girls are staying at, a long hallway, uh, with excellent lighting and backlighting, and it's very dreamlike, very surreal, very isolated, which is and you know and the musical score, which I think Jess has got a real appreciation for. Jazz music and that type of eccentric type music works extremely effectively in this film, coupled with some outstanding direction and cinematography. So all in all, it was it's an excellent film. Is it one of? I don't think it's one of his best films, but I think it's a little schizophrenic in terms of the storyline. It's a little convoluted, and the ending I think is, I don't know, ludicrous. But you know, you could make the argument that the whole film is such a dreamy, surreal experience that, I mean, anything goes. But I thought the ending was a little bit ludicrous. It was shot in the Canary Islands, and the hotel and the monastery with which this film was shot are very effective. You know, what I like about the Franco films is when he has the ability to shoot from real settings. He does a great job. He really does, and this is no exception. I mean, the cinematography in the Canary Islands is it really it puts you in the Franco world, if you will, of surrealism and otherworldliness that I think that many other directors just fail to grasp. So, you know, from that standpoint, I got to give Franco kudos. Uh, yeah, the film, you know, most people were going to look at this and say, well, it's just a softcore porn film. It's just a bunch of women showing off their bush and their boobs with no real storyline, and I could see that. I would take the position that you know, it's an attempt to create a otherworldly atmosphere. Um, and the other thing about it, Franco talks about it, and there's a 19-minute interview in this film, in the DVD. He's not afraid to show sex and as a natural part of life. I mean, you know, we were born, all of us were born through the product of sex, and why be ashamed of that? I mean, it's, you know, it's a very for us Americans, maybe that's a little difficult to swallow, but I mean, from that mindset, European mindset, particularly 60s, 70s, I mean, that's a legitimate position that people took, and he's certainly a product of that environment. Uh, he did not indicate that, you know, most of the times when you read about these films, the producers really put pressure on Franco to put all these sex scenes in the film to prop it up commercially. He didn't say that. He just said, look, I'm not a fan of zombie films. I think it's silly and stupid. I'm much more interested in the actors and the characterization, the settings, the cinematography, and quite frankly, sex is a natural thing. You know, showing people's bodies. Why should we be ashamed of that? So that's the world of Jess Franco, and God love him, right? I mean, it's just, who else is like Jess Franco? It's a great thing. So yeah, that's Mansion of the Living Dead. It's not a particularly scary film or gory film, but it is you're entering into Jess Franco's world in an unabated way, unencumbered, because once he got back to Spain and was able to shoot without the level of censorship and scrutiny that he would receive prior, that kind of forced him out. You know, I mean, I think this film was very indicative of his world and what he tried to portray and what he takes for values in his life. So, yeah, I would recommend it. I don't know that if you're kind of new to the Franco world, I'm not sure that I would say, well, kick it off with Mansion of the Living Dead. I think I would say try out some of the Olaf films, maybe go to Bloody Moon, and then come back around to some of this this more gratuitous sexual type stuff. But anyway, I liked it. I give it a 7 out of 10, maybe a 6.5. But it's a little slow in parts, but it's my kind of thing, and I think Jess Franco did a great job with it. So there you go. That's Mansion of the Living Dead, and I appreciate you watching. Thanks.